And we can get started, Madam Chair. You have a quorum of Victor, Heike, and yourself as we wait for Monica and our Adriana as our backup county council, as Tom is down with the board in the work session, along with my alternate down there, so we can help serve you guys.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. If we can first take an opportunity to review and accept the meeting minutes from our last meeting. There's a motion from Heike or Victor.
So moved.
Right?
Second.
Second. Wonderful. There's been a motion that's been moved and seconded to support our meeting minutes. I will take that as a win for the meeting minutes. So the meeting minutes have been approved, and the focus for our meeting today is to finalize our final report to present to the board on May 23rd. And Heike, I did receive your email yesterday, and I wanted to just take the opportunity as a commission to discuss your recommendation. And then what I'd like to do during our meeting is just pull up the report real time and make edits and hopefully finalize that with this group. And hopefully we can do that today. If not, we do have a little time until that final report is to be presented on the 23rd of May. So just hoping we can make some progress to finalize that this afternoon. So Heike, I will turn it to you to kind of talk through what you shared with me via email with the group, and then we can go from there.
Do you happen to have that handy? Shoot, let me see if I can pull it up.
With one screen. Let me see if I can
Actually, I think I can share my screen.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, this is the email that I sent to Brianna yesterday. Let's see if I can somehow make it smaller. Does everybody see it? Okay. So I took a look at, I did a lot of research yesterday, and based on what I found, it seems like Washington County is above the external markets. And so this is just the information I found. And so Monica or Victor, if you found additional information, it would be helpful to share. I found that in Multnomah County, for example, and I'm talking about internal comparisons. Multnomah County, the salary range for an HR director or chief HR person is $137,400. And I have a report that I'll open up at the end. In Washington County, on the other hand, the chief HR person is, here's the salary range. So when I was reviewing to do the internal comparisons, it was a little more difficult to make the internal comparisons because of the restructure that Washington County had done. And they took away the director level that we used last year, and they kind of restructured the whole thing and have the assistant county commissioners. And so based on all of that, the closest that I could find that I had done the internal comparisons for, and I provided that report the last time I gave the presentation. I still think that the ones that, and it's the CFO and it's the HR director, it's all of the people that were, or all of the positions that were in my last report. I still think that those are the best internal comparators. Then I took a look at the Washington County, and I think Monica, you had shared that they anchor it to, at least in 2000, I think it was 2000, whatever it was, 2012 or 8 or something like that. They anchored some of the commissioners to the deputy director level number 1 to the minimum salary of the range. And then, which is 60% of the chair. And then the chair is earning this. I'm not sure, because in the report that you had shared, Monica, the chair was anchored to the director 1 and the commissioners were anchored to director 2, but for some reason I couldn't see what the chair is anchored to. So I don't know if they changed it. I'm not sure what happened, but now they anchor the commissioners to director 1, and then the chair in Multnomah County is making the 207. So my recommendation here, based on everything that I found, and I only looked at Multnomah County because it was difficult for me to do internal comparisons for the internal employees with other counties. Multnomah had everything online, so it was easier to compare here. But based on that, it seems that we should, one of two things, my recommendation is either anchor it to the HR or the equity, chief equity person for Washington County, because they both are earning 163.4, or take an average of all of my internal comparators, which is the 146. And I think that would be my recommendation for the county commissioners. And then recognizing that a spread between supervisors and subordinates is, 10% to, I think it's 25%. I just picked the 15% spread. And so to give the chair 15% more, which was 188, which is still lower than Multnomah County is paying their chair. And this is what, can you see this? Can you see this report? Yes? Okay. This is where I found it. I was able to pull down, and it has salary ranges for all of the positions, and it'll have the chair in here as well, and it has the commissioners, which are, here it is, 5 zeros. Here's the chair, and here's the county commissioner, and so you could see the salary for those two positions, and it also had all of the internal comparisons as well. There's also another spreadsheet that I went to make the comparisons for the job descriptions, and they appeared comparable. But again, Multnomah County is bigger. I didn't go that much in depth. I didn't have that much time. So, do you have any questions?
Thanks for sharing that, Heike. So just to recap, you would recommend anchoring the chair position to either the chief HR role within
The commissioner's position.
The commissioner's, excuse me, that's what I meant, I'm sorry. The commissioner's position to the chief HR role or the equity role.
Right.
Or an average of
all of them.
Of those.
There's 5 positions that are internal comparators. And so taking an average of that, and I think that was 148 or whatever it was. 146,502 if we took an average of all of them.
Monica, you have any questions or thoughts?
One more thing, sorry, Monica, before you step in, I just want to say I didn't address it in the email, or it was at the very bottom. I didn't share or talk about it. I recognize that Washington County is in a budget deficit. And so I didn't know if there was a way to, recognizing that I think somehow the commissioners and the chair got out of whack with the salary based on how the Washington County's internal comparators have progressed. And so I don't know if there was a phase in that we could do or something like that, and eventually get them to the place, recognizing that this is a difficult year. So I'm not proposing that we do it all in 1 year, but I do think that they need to get up to that based on the internal comparators. So I'm sorry, Monica, go ahead.
No, thank you. That's very relevant background as well. Thank you for that. My only question is, can we take a look at the different internal comparators that you are averaging out? And is that that's based on current salaries, right? because as people, you know, move positions or progress, you know, in the different levels, I mean, that average, or new people come in, right? Maybe they're replaced by people who, by other professionals who have less experience, or, you know, they're graded at a starting point that may be lesser, would require lesser salary. Would all of that play a factor? Or would it be as an alternative, maybe base it on what the average salary would be always, right, for a position? So that way it's a moving target only that will be increasing based on COLA or, you know, what the internal parameters are, but there aren't other external, if you want to call them, like who are the actual individuals in those spots playing a factor. Did that make sense?
Two responses. First, I'm using a different computer, and I shared it with everyone the last time, the spreadsheet with all the internal comparators, and I don't have a copy of that on this computer. So if someone else has that, I could, and somebody else can pull that up, that would be helpful. And second, I'm proposing that we take the minimum of the salary range. There's a salary range for each position. And so I'm proposing that we anchor it to the minimum of the salary range. So that does not take into account any of the specific qualifications that the individual person has.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
And I'll pull up that document that has that data. Just 1 second, please. And with that anchor that you mentioned, Heike, would it be a certain percentage from the minimum of the pay range for those roles?
No, I took just the minimum.
The starts, okay.
Yeah, because I agree with Monica, because you start to take into account the individual qualifications, it moves them across the salary scale or the salary range. And I wouldn't want a moving target. But yeah, so I was taking that minimum for each one of the positions, and recognizing too that internally they're getting paid at the highest, at the max for each one of these positions.
Can you see the spreadsheet? Is it up?
Yep.
Great. So these were the two, I know I heard you, let me highlight them, so.
Yeah, because that seemed to be the most consistent, was both of those, even though it's a little bit off, or the average of all of them.
So currently, the commissioners are at 120, about 120,000 a year. So with what you just proposed, Heike, it would take them to at least 163.
Or 100, if we average, it's 146 something.
Victor, are you still here? I want to make sure.
Yes, I'm still here. My camera just doesn't work.
Okay,
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on this?
That's an interesting proposal. I actually, yeah, I don't, I'm still kind of analyzing. It seems like a good idea. I just want to try to understand the, let me think about how to phrase this. But I'm following pretty well. I think you just can't see me. But yeah, 146.
Norma. Okay. Did you calculate that number, Heike? Was that in your email? It's like I can use spreadsheets all day, but having it projected, I can't do
Yeah.
anything. So let me see.
Yeah, it's in my email.
Okay,
It
I'll
was the
put that in.
average, right?
46,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, so Heike, I think the average you said is what, around 148? We can't hear you. Heike, your mic.
Yeah, I'm trying to switch between screens. Yeah, I think it was 100 and wasn't it? Let me see if I can pull it up.
146.8 something is the average.
146, 502, 80. 1,046, 502 and 80 cents.
And your proposal is to increase the salary of the commissioners to 146,502?
Yes. And well,
100%, not a percentage, dollar for dollar of that average.
right. Well, or the other option is somehow phase it in, or, you know, recognizing this is a difficult year. I don't know.
We could, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yes. One thing that we've seen, I think, in other counties, they don't exactly, I mean, they anchor it, but it could be any percentage, not 100%. So it could be any number, you know, over and above, I suppose, 100%. I think I have to go back, and I know that Clackamas County does a percentage that is less than 100%. So right now, if at 100% of that average of 146, there would be an increase year over year of $26,000, which represents 22%. I personally think that is a significant increase. I don't, and I don't understand why. Is there any more background as of why you believe that there should be increase by 22%?
First of all, like I said, Washington or Multnomah County, they're paying their commissioners already significantly more, and also the chair. So those are the external, but also internally, when you compare the internal comparators and these, I believe this would be the internal comparators here, they're making significantly over. And so I don't see a justification why the commissioners or the chair should be significantly less than the internal comparators.
I see it as slightly different. I think that the nature of their jobs are very different. You know, when we're looking at other individuals that work for the county, right? They are full-time, and they have a group, a team of people that report directly to them. We may get more information from Clerk Moss, and you know, if there's anybody on this call from HR, but they have a number of people, a significant number of people reporting to them. Whereas commissioners, I consider more of a policy, you know, responsibilities. So I think that the idea of anchoring is only to make easy for the calculation to work, but not to match. Does that make sense?
In the spreadsheet that I gave, or that Sherry has already provided, it shows the scope of responsibility for all of these positions. It shows the duties and the scope of responsibility. And that's why I said that and this is similar to what Multnomah County did and other counties do. They take a look at a comparable job, trying to look at the scope, the level of responsibility. And when you compare these positions, it's not exact, but the level of responsibility and the scope of their responsibility seem comparable.
But I think that is relevant when we're comparing to other commissioners in other counties.
That would be an external comparison. So
Correct.
part of the
Well,
pay,
which is-
so compensation analysis we evaluate the external, which I don't think there's any true external comparisons, not even Multnomah County, which is making significantly more, I think. But we also have to take a look at the internal comparators.
Victor, were you saying something? I thought I heard you.
No, I was just saying, I agree. It's just, it wasn't, Multnomah County is just much larger, more responsibilities, and their tax revenue is much higher than Washington County.
So a recommendation that might meet the concerns and the needs of what we've been commissioned to do, we could consider Heike, your proposal with using an average of the minimum pay range for these internal comparators. And what I did here was anchored it at 90%, so not the full, dollar for dollar. And it takes, sorry, these are flipped. It takes the commissioner position up. I did not calculate the percentages yet, but it takes it up about $11,000 compared to where they are now. And then the chair would be 10% on top of that. That's similar to how it's set up now. And she or that position would go up between $12,000 and $13,000. And that, I think we're also balancing a lot of things, what we heard from the commissioners in terms of the work they do, how they view the work and view their compensation, and also what we've heard about inflation and the financial challenges that the county is having. So this might be a way that we approach it. And another thing that I think came up in the previous discussion is, can we propose to phase this out? So in our recommendation, I think we have the ability to propose in year 1, do this amount, in year 2, do this amount, or we can even have some language that ties to the budget or meeting budgetary needs for the county that would allow for that kind of second part of the pay increase. So I think we have some options just in terms of how we present our findings, but I want to just get some thoughts and reactions to using Heike's recommendation, but at 90%, and how that compares to where we currently are, and looking at all the other data and points that we've heard.
I like that. I like having it start at 90%. And I'm still thinking that they're underpaid. I'd like to increase, maybe with budget, and have that budgetary language in there, and maybe next year have 95% of the minimum or something like that on the average. But I like that, and I like these numbers here too, because that decreases the amount of the initial shock, especially in this budgetary climate.
Yeah.
If we substitute the current salary for Washington County Commissioners by that 90% average, Brianna, that you're mentioning, which I was calculating 131,800.
Can you repeat that, Monica? I'm sorry, I was typing something in.
Yes, sorry. 131,800.
Yes. For the county number?
For the commissioner at 90%.
Right, yes.
The average.
Yes, this is using this average number times 90%, so pretty close, I think.
Oh,
a couple dollars.
Sorry, I was using 146,502, but now you have, so 90% of the 146,502 is 131,852. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Correct. So if we substitute the current salary of 120,178.5 by 131,852, and compared to the median salary of external comparators, the Washington County will be 7% higher than the median. And I believe that is significant because there is nobody else in our sample that is making that kind of salary.
Who are your external comparators again?
We have Multnomah County, Clackamas County, Spokane, Pierce, Marion, Lane, City of Portland, and City of Beaverton.
But Washington or Multnomah County is making more than that.
I'll be happy to compare that number with you. What we had in the external comparator for commissioner was 124,920.
Oh, you're right. Sorry,
The
you're
chair
right.
is making a lot more. Yes, the chair is making
was gonna say that.
197,000, 197,606,
Yeah, the chair is.
which is definitely the highest we've seen anywhere else. So yes, the highest in our in Oregon and surrounding counties will be Multnomah County. And outside of Oregon, pardon me, and Clackamas County. Clackamas County, there was a proposal for 125, just over 125.
And the reason I went back to the internal comparators is because I wanted to see how our commissioners were paid in relation to the internal comparators. And I went to Multnomah County and looked at the commissioners in relation to their internal comparators, and their internal comparators are paid less than our internal comparators. And so that's why I think Washington, our commissioners, if Washington County is paying their employees more than Multnomah County, then I didn't think it was fair that we should be paying our commissioners the same amount that another county is paying when they're, you understand what I'm saying?
So what is the percentage difference in your salary employee comparison? Because you're really doing an external comparison, but you're doing an external comparison of employees. So employees.
Because I wanted to see the
employees,
relationship.
correct. So that whether you were doing average, probably average sounds like, of employees in Washington County versus, let's say, Multnomah County, what's that incremental that the rest of the employees and what the employees in your sample are getting paid higher than Multnomah County?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
So trying to use the same methodology that we use for the external comparators.
Mhm.
So we did waste compare all of them. We did either an average or a median for all of them, and then compare that to the Washington County commissioners. So let's say that your analysis includes, HR directors.
Right.
What would be that percentage, that incremental percentage of HR directors?
That was the report I just showed.
But was there a percentage? If there was one, I apologize, I did not see that.
I didn't break it out. Here, let me share my screen again. So here's the HR director position, the minimum salary of the HR director. I mean, chief HR person. Chief HR. And our chief HR is in Brianna's. It's hard to, I wish we were doing this in person so we could throw it all up on the, because in your report, Brianna, what is it? What is the chief HR for Washington County?
Oh, okay. It is, their current, are you talking about their current pay or?
The minimum.
Oh, 163, 476, so 163,000.
I guess my question would be, why is, I don't think that's necessarily fair, and maybe I missed this part, but you know, these folks, internal jobs right here, these are subject matter experts. They have a specialty. I never questioned how high their salary was, but I never expected to compare them to our commissioners, because our commissioners are elected officials who are more policy and public facing. They're not really experts at anything. You know what I mean? Like I just never thought that it would be fair to attach it to an internal salary.
And I think when you evaluate the internal salary to do the comparisons, we take a look at the scope of responsibility, the level of, you know, skills, knowledge, responsibility. And I understand that they're elected. And I'm not proposing that they make the same as the internal comparators, but I think it is a data point that we have to evaluate. And so not moving them across a salary range to account for specific experience or seniority or anything else. But I do think anchoring them to a minimum and aligning that, having some recognition that Washington County is paid, you know, significantly more than let's say Multnomah County. And like I said, I haven't been able to do all of it because I only had Multnomah County's data, but I think this is a relevant point.
And I think when we did our work previously, we looked at both, and when we came up with the recommendation, it was closely connected to both the internal and external data. For whatever reason, it kind of lined up in a way that supported both. I'm wondering, because I know Monica and Victor, you worked on the external component. Is there a recommendation that you have, and we can kind of use that as an anchor too, based on Heike's recommendation, and figure out where we should ultimately land? Because you all know this, and I talk about this every meeting. We need to get to a point where we can align on a recommendation that recognizes the role and the research that has been done, and also the anecdotal feedback that we heard from the actual commissioners. So Monica or Victor, from your perspective, based on what you came up with, was there kind of a perspective on what you would present for this final report from what you could see?
Well, in terms of Monica and I coming up with something, we talked about averages, and we didn't really come up with a specific recommendation together, but maybe Monica has one. I'm still trying to figure out, because I'm also taking into consideration all the feedback we got from each commissioner.
Yep.
And actually, at first, without that feedback, I would have agreed with Heike 100%. But after hearing each of them, I'm like, let me rethink about that, attaching it to internals. So, okay. So no, I can't remember if Monica and I came up with something. We didn't come up with anything together.
Thanks, Victor. Monica?
Yes, the analysis that have recommendations to use median as the way to determine the variance between other external salaries and Washington County. And with using that methodology, there was a recommendation for an increase of at least 2%. And I think that this is where we're at, right? Is between 2% and 10% that would effectively be realized by anchoring to 90% of the average of all the other executives working for the county. Besides that, there were other recommendations that were submitted that included applying a COLA adjustment based on senior management's adjustment for any given year. We have not touched on that, but I'm just being very general as far as recommendations provided. And look at total compensation, not only salary, and that would include what's called other adjustments to salaries, inclusive of car allowance and forward technology allowance.
Thank you. And I did, I know we were still at our last meeting discussing kind of how to structure the salary recommendation, but I think we made some traction on the COLA language in the draft report. And I also captured later in the report the recommendation to look at the current stipends and other compensation, just as kind of our gift to them to reevaluate. So I feel like those are captured.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for pulling those back in. And so you came up with the average of about 2% using the median.
Correct.
And we're at about a 10% increase using the average of the internal comparator data. So I think the other thing that we heard, or one thing I got a sense of, is that if these increases that we propose are so out of line in terms of what's being offered to regular staff, there was some concern from the commissioners of them getting substantial increases where there's all these budget constraints and other people aren't getting it. So I think that's one important piece that we should consider with our recommendation, because we can do all this work and make the proposal. And I think I've heard definitively from Tom that they can agree to decline the increase. And I wouldn't want that to be the case, because it really negates the work and the intention around the work. So I'd like us to come up with something that that would be accepted and appreciated by the commissioners and also by their kind of fellow peers in these internal roles or in other staff positions. So I wonder if we so we're kind of on opposite ends. If we did something closer to 4% and looked at those numbers and had some discussion about that, I can quickly calculate that so we can see what those increases would look like. But if that would be something that we can consider as a commission. And Adriana, do you have some wisdom for us, please?
Not wisdom, advice.
Okay, thank you.
So, Chair Candom, you are correct that Tom did verify whether the commissioners could decline their COLAs, and the answer is they can. I think you raise a good point, because they will have to respond, depending on whatever raise they get, to their constituents.
Yep.
And I think it's just a fact that if they get a very large increase, particularly during times of fiscal challenges, that they are going to face backlash. To answer your earlier question, you all can come up with whatever recommendation you want, so long as you reach a majority. We can phase it in, phase it out, whatever you want to do. I read your bylaws, and you have very few constraints in terms of what you actually do.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Sure thing.
So how about this? We could propose that in year one, there's a 2% increase that really, that the external data supported. And then in the second year, if the budget I don't know exactly how we will word this, and maybe Adriana, you can give us some input. If the budget situation is in a different place, that we could recommend another percentage or another amount based on that. Is there a way that we can tie our recommendation to the effectiveness of the budget, or maybe the span of which we're hitting the budget for the county?
I think you can do that. I think the question is the language, right?
Right, yes.
So we would want to say, how do you want to tie it exactly? Any ideas? Whether the county is solvent, or I guess I rely more on your expertise in terms of these types of questions.
My initial thought was if the budget allows for other increases, so increases to pay for other staff, that our recommendation would align to what those increased percentages would be. So, and I know there's some union represented components. So the non-represented employees for the county would be how I would propose capturing that.
It seems like they had different percentage increases as well. And I'm still concerned that there's such a huge discrepancy between the internal and the commissioners. And so, if one group is getting 1% and then they only get the 1% in the second year, they're not getting any closer.
Yeah. From my perspective, I think this is an interesting time to do this work for the county, and we're empowered to make a recommendation. But I also I think the intent is to continue to have commissions like these to further evaluate it, and maybe we don't make the movement this round, and we're in a better position in 2024 and 2025 to or whoever is in the seat to push that further. But I just think, given the constraints and what we've heard, and the whole aspect with the constituents, it could put the commissioners in a very challenging position if we're using this as an equity review as opposed to a market review.
And I'm agreeing with you. I'm
Yeah.
agreeing with you as far as the first year and the 2%. I'm not. I actually think that's a great idea. I'm just wondering that second year, how to structure it, because I don't want to just base it on a group of non-represented employees, because I think that there were differences in the percentage increases across the board. I don't think there was consistency, is what I'm saying.
For the non-represented folks. Okay.
Brianna, I have a question. Is the proposal for the 2% for 4% total, 2% would be to bring them to parity to the rest of the external competitors, and a real increase plus an increase of 2%, right? Kind of like look at it as a two-part increase. Some of it is to bring it to parity, and the rest would be a true increase, which still would be only 2% above the median of the rest of the counties.
I think that's how it would be positioned. It would be definitively, we would move forward with 2% and then reevaluate based on the budget that another 2% is granted. We could just say, hey, let's do 4% now.
Right.
And I am very open to that. I hear the concerns that both you and Heike are voicing, and I want to make sure that we can have some sort of solution that acknowledges that and acknowledges the financial situation. So
Correct. Because I think this way we bring it to parity with external competitors, but then there's an incremental percentage that will also acknowledge what the point that Heike is making, right? That generally employees are paid higher in Washington County than other counties.
So how would you structure that, Monica? Do you have concerns with doing it in 2 separate years, or would you just say do 4% now?
I think it would, I mean, I wouldn't have objections to doing the 4% now.
Okay.
Yeah, I was typing as you all were discussing to try and find out if there were any current employees whose raises were tied to the budget. I haven't gotten an answer, but I think it's difficult at the county in the public sector. I think in the private sector, you can tie something like that to revenue, for example, or to profits. I suspect it's a little bit harder in the public sector.
So is there a way to tell whether the employees, to Monica's point, did employees get a COLA as well as an increase? Or was it just the COLA that they got this year? Do you know?
The increases are generally tied to their anniversary, and they're in the personnel rules so that they're really contractual. If somebody doesn't get a raise, they could probably file, some sort of lawsuit saying, hey, this was my expectation. So as far as I know, not knowing anybody I don't think anybody did not get a raise, if that answers and I think that answers your question.
Well, because there's a COLA, so generally there's a cost of living increase, and then sometimes there's a seniority or performance or some other reason for an increase. Did they get a COLA? Did they get that cost of living plus additional increase?
If they met their 1-year anniversary, yes.
Okay.
Their
Thank you.
yearly anniversary, whatever would have been.
Okay, so I heard from 2 of you that you would support a 4% increase as a recommendation for the commissioners, and the chair would be, in relation to that 10% higher. Victor, is that a recommendation you're supportive of?
It's absolute. That's not. I wouldn't object to that. That would be good. I mean,
I need a yes. No.
yes. I wish I could turn my camera on. I can't. I don't know why I can't. But yeah. I think that's a good idea for this recommendation
Okay.
this time around.
All right. And I feel like I need to do some work with cleaning up the actual report, and maybe I can get some feedback from you or some advice from you, Adriana. Are you frozen? Might be just on my, oh, there you are. So we don't have another meeting scheduled prior to the actual final report to the board. If I were to craft something to share with this group via email or have Clerk Moss share it, can we provide just edits to that, or do we need to actually have a public meeting to make those edits?
Is that a question for Clerk Moss or
No,
open
for
all of us?
Adrian. And you're on mute.
I'm looking at your bylaws, and there's nothing in them that says you need to do this.
I think it's a public record laws, a public meeting laws.
there's another commission where it's explicitly stated that they cannot vote in any manner other than a video conference. I don't see that in your bylaws. However, it is probably a best practice to do this publicly so that there are no questions of side conversations. So if you all can agree on what you're actually going to do,
Okay,
minor edits would not be problematic.
all right. Well, thank you for that. So I'd like to use this as an opportunity to receive a motion that we recommend a 4% increase to the county commissioner position, and that the chair position would be 10% above that for our recommendation. I am not making a motion, but that's what I'm hoping that we can do in this meeting. And from there, I will capture that in the report along with the data that you all have provided to support that recommendation.
Could we differentiate maybe with the cost of living and so 2 and 2 instead of just saying a flat 4?
Please feel free to, I did not make a motion. I just am having some dialogue. So please make a motion, Heike, and you can structure it that way. I'll make sure that I capture it. So I capture it appropriately in the report.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a try. Monica, jump in here. So I want to make a motion that we increase the commissioners by 2% for cost of living and 2% for, and I don't know what to call this, 2% additional increase. And then,
Their yearly salary?
yes, for their yearly salary, and for the chair to keep the 10% difference between the chair and the commissioners.
Is there a second?
Aye.
Monica, that's a second. Any discussion? I'll just restate the motion before we vote on it. So Heike has moved that we increase the county commissioners COLA 2% and also give them a 2% pay adjustment to their annual salary and maintain the 10% difference of the county commissioner chair position. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Victor?
Yes, aye, sorry.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were in favor or not. I said aye too.
Yes.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Wonderful.
I'd like to have something for that second year though, to put something in there for that second year as well.
Please present another motion, or we could just talk about the language if you want to talk about it, and then we can have a motion to finalize your recommendation.
See, I think it has to be dependent of, oh, sorry, Adriana, go ahead.
Just to correct myself, I did look at the rules again. There is a requirement under section E that there must be a majority of members present at a meeting. So to answer that question, you must be in a meeting.
To vote, or for the final report, to agree on the final report?
To vote.
Okay, yes, and we're good there. This is all of us.
Perfect.
Okay. Go ahead, Heike.
And I don't really have a proposal yet, but I do think it needs to be dependent upon the budget, because if we're in the same budget situation, then I don't want to commit to something or have something there where it's going to exceed the budget. So, but I do think that I'd like to make up some more ground again on the salary for next year if they have capacity.
Adriana, do you know for next year how the internal comparators are determined if they'll get an increase? Because that might be. There's no, well, I don't know. I know we don't know if they will get an increase, but what is the venue in which their increases are determined if they will get them or not?
So it would be any collective bargaining negotiation for COLAs. Well, although I think most of them have already been bargained for. Again, if there are any employees that meet the requirements of their anniversary under our personnel rules and regulations, they would get a raise.
And let me clarify, I mean specifically the chief equity, chief public affair, those positions that we're using as internal comparators. Here, I'll pull those up, because I think they were a little different. They're not under a CBA because of the nature of their position. So these roles, I'm curious if we had language that said, in the event of the internal comparators, and we can list those out, receiving a percentage increase, we recommend that the commissioners receive said increase or something to that effect.
Yeah. I don't know is the bottom line. Some of these are MAPS employees. And so that they would be subject to that. But I know that the county administrator is in a separate contract.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sure that that contract covers any increase that she gets, but I don't know it off the top of my head. I would have to go back and look at it.
Okay. And are there, because I know we originally had talked about an average of these internal comparators, but we have not gone that direction. Is there a role or roles within this bucket that is determined by the success of the budget or how the county is doing? Is there, maybe it's the public affairs and communications officer or one of these roles that when the county is doing well, they get an increase and vice versa? Because we could anchor that to one of those positions if that's an option.
Right. And I haven't seen that covered. It would be in our personnel rules and regulations, and I have not seen it. I don't think it's a practice in the public sector, but I don't know if any of you have experience otherwise. I just don't think it's a practice to tie any raises to how well whether the budget is solvent or not, or if there are any financial problems. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I know it's done with incentives in a lot of cases. If there's a certain level of achievement that it's granted, or it's granted at a certain percentage. I wasn't sure how the county manages that with their budget. So no, thank you for that.
I could do some research, but I don't know if you would have it in time.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, so Heike, do you have any thoughts on what could address those second year concerns?
Actually, let me ask a question, maybe Adriana, maybe you know, when they get the positions that we just saw, so they get a cost of living increase, and that's decided by the budget. That additional anniversary increase, is there a specific percentage that they get for that anniversary increase?
That's a good question. Let's see. They are not subject to the steps, so they wouldn't get what most employees get. As I mentioned, the CAO is under her own specifically negotiated contract. I don't know. I think, oh, actually, I do know. The increase is based on performance, and it has to be approved by the board. So it can be, you did a wonderful job, we're going to give you, 10% this year, or you didn't do such a great job this year, we're going to give you 2%.
So is there a range on that anniversary increase?
I don't believe there's a range, but I don't know specifically.
And Brianna, in answer to your question, I think that that's maybe how, because I know when we did it, the salary comparisons 2 years ago, they were pretty much aligned. And maybe that's what happened because they're getting the anniversary increase and the COLAs. And we only gave the COLAs to the commissioners. So maybe that's how they fell so far behind the Washington County.
Well, maybe we can recommend for the second year, the same increases. That would give them 2% and a 2% adjustment in year 2 and not tie it to the budget. I know inflation is higher than that, but that would help counteract that sum. And when this commission is, or another commission is employed, they can reevaluate where things are.
Yeah, that would give an 8% overall
2 years, yeah.
over 2 years. Yeah.
Monica, Victor, is that?
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm in support of that.
Agreed.
Right. Well, that being said, I think we have the first year covered. Is there a motion to replicate our recommendation for the second year? And I think that will get us to where we need to be.
Yes, I will submit a motion to replicate in year 2 the 4% total increase year over year
And to
on
clarify,
salary
that's-
base.
Okay, and that's 2% COLA, 2% adjustment, or
With 2%
okay.
COLA, 2% adjustment. Yes.
okay. Is there a second?
With the caveat that the COLA can also be rejected, right?
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
So there's been a motion to replicate our year 1 proposal with 2% COLA that can be rejected, 2% salary adjustment. We also continue to maintain the 10% difference for the chair position. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and this is Victor.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? No, any abstention? Right, motion carries. Wonderful. Well, what I'd like to do, and I think we got the thumbs up that we can do this, given we voted on the recommendation, I will update the actual report. And Clerk Moss, I'd like to partner with you to share that out with the commission for input or edits. And then is there a certain date that we need to have that document provided prior to the final report on the 23rd?
So on our packets, we usually publish the Tuesday prior to that. So we would publish on the 16th,
Okay.
for the packet for the
Okay.
23rd.
Okay.
And so, and let me share the motions I captured just to make sure you can
Yes.
tell me if I'm got this right here. Okay. Okay, so can you see this here in the middle here? So 2% COLA, 2% pay adjustment to the annual salary for each commissioner, and maintain 10% increase for chair for fiscal year 23-24, and then 2% for fiscal year 24-25.
Yep.
Okay.
That looks correct to me. I see some nods. Heike?
Is there anything we have to put in there about the stipends, cell phone stipends or mileage or anything like that?
I had captured that from Monica's recommendation prior, and I
But do we need to make a motion to include that, or can we just go by the recommendation?
So the recommendation is that it's reviewed in the future. We didn't recommend any sort of dollar changes for it. So it was more for awareness purposes, if I am capturing that right. So
Okay.
And then Heike or Brianna, can you send me the email you guys had so I can capture the other amount
Yes.
from the first part, just so we've captured that?
yes, for sure.
Right.
Okay, well, I will plan. So the 16th is a Tuesday. I will plan to get the updated report by the end of the evening on Thursday, this Thursday. And if we can provide feedback up until the end of Monday, and then I can get the final version to Clerk Moss to publish on Tuesday. Does that work for everyone? Okay, wonderful. All right, well, this was a very productive meeting. Appreciate all the passion and research and dialogue. And I think this will really meet the needs of the commissioners and help them to support their constituents. So appreciate that. And I will make sure to get that draft out to you all by late Thursday, and look forward to your feedback for that by next Monday. Right, take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Call the meeting adjourned at 4:07. Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good to see everybody.
Good day.
Bye.